So let's talk about a technology that can literally teach a plant to make its own pesticide or turn simple bacteria into tiny life-saving factories. Yeah, we're diving into biotechnology. It's a field that holds this incredible promise to solve some of our world's biggest challenges. But it also opens up a real Pandora's box of ethical questions, like who gets to own life itself? But you might be wondering, why do we even need something this powerful in the first place? Well, to get that, you have to look at the huge challenges we're facing as a planet. We are under a lot of pressure, and honestly, the old playbooks we've been using are starting to fail us. At the heart of it all is a really simple but kind of staggering fact. Our population is just growing fast, and every single person needs more food, more medicine, more resources. And we have to figure out how to provide all of that while protecting the one planet we've got. Look, we've pulled off miracles before. I mean, the Green Revolution in agriculture was a total game changer, right? It tripled our food supply. But here's the catch. The world kept growing. And that miracle, well, it's pretty much reached its limit. We need a new revolution. Okay, so if the old ways aren't cutting it anymore, what's next? This brings us to a totally different approach. Instead of just, say, breeding better plants over decades, what if we could go in and directly edit the instruction manual of life itself? And that's where we get into genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. The simplest way to think about it is this. A GMO is any living thing, a plant, a microbe, you name it, where scientists have gone in and made a very specific, targeted change to its genetic code, all to give it a new, really helpful trait. And the possibilities here are just mind-blowing. I mean, imagine crops that can survive a brutal drought, or plants that naturally fight off pests so we don't need to spray as many chemicals. You could even have food that comes pre-packed with extra vitamins. See, it's not just about making more food, it's about making smarter, more resilient food. So this all sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work in the real world? Okay, let's take a look at one of the most famous examples from agriculture, a type of cotton that literally defends itself from insects. And the results, well, they're pretty dramatic. On one hand, you have a regular cotton ball that can be completely wiped out by pests like the bollworm. But on the other, with just one tiny genetic tweak, you get a healthy, perfect, thriving plant. The difference is truly night and day. The science behind this is just so clever. So, scientists found this gene in a super common soil bacterium. It's called Bacillus thuringiensis, that creates a protein that's only toxic to specific insects. They take that gene and insert it into the cotton plant cells. Now, the plant itself produces this protein, but it's totally inactive and harmless. That is, until a pest like the bollworm comes along and takes a bite. The specific chemistry inside the insect's gut activates the protein, and just like that, the plant defends itself. So what you have, in essence, is a plant that acts as its own bodyguard. And this is huge because it means farmers can drastically cut back on chemical pesticides. That's a massive win for the environment, and it's boosted the income from millions of small farmers, especially in developing countries. All right, now let's switch gears and go from the farm to the pharmacy, because this technology isn't just about crops. It has absolutely revolutionized medicine, and it all started with a drug that saves millions of lives, insulin for diabetics. Before biotech, all insulin had to be extracted from the pancreases of slaughtered pigs and cattle. And it worked, mostly, but it was still a foreign protein, which meant some people had pretty bad allergic reactions. Today, we take the human insulin gene, pop it into bacteria, and those bacteria become tiny, living factories, just churning out huge amounts of insulin that is absolutely identical to what our own bodies produce. It's safer, purer, and we can make as much as we need. But there was a really clever puzzle they had to solve first. See, in our bodies, insulin starts out as an inactive prohormone. It has this extra piece attached that needs to get cut off to make it work. So researchers had to get creative. They figured out a way to make the two final active chains separately inside the bacteria, and then they chemically stitched them together afterwards to create perfect, functional human insulin. Pretty brilliant. And that breakthrough with insulin, it was just the beginning. It completely opened the floodgates for a whole new era of medicine. Today, there are around 30 different life-saving drugs. They're called recombinant therapeutics, all made using the same basic technology. So we've seen the incredible promise, right? We can feed more people, we can heal the sick. It sounds amazing. But every powerful technology has another edge to its sword.
And the power to rewrite life raises some profound ethical questions that we absolutely have to grapple with.
It really all boils down to a pretty fundamental and honestly unsettling question. When a company modifies a living thing, who owns it? Who gets to profit from it? And what happens to the people and communities who get left behind in this new gold rush? This whole situation has given rise to a really powerful and controversial term, biopiracy. It's what people call it when companies, usually from wealthy nations, take natural resources and traditional knowledge from local communities, patent them as their own inventions, and then profit from them, often without giving anything back to the very people who discovered and nurtured that knowledge for generations. A perfect example of this is the case of Basmati rice. For centuries, farmers in India have been perfecting this incredible aromatic grain. Then, in 1997, a U.S. company was granted a patent on a new variety of Basmati, a variety that was directly derived from those traditional Indian strains. It sparked a global uproar and a critical question. Where exactly do you draw the line between genuine innovation and outright appropriation? And this really gets right to the core of the problem. There's this fundamental imbalance. As the saying goes, the developing and the underdeveloped world is rich in biodiversity and traditional knowledge. They have the raw materials, the ancient wisdom, while the industrialized nations often have the patents and the power. And this isn't just a one-off story about rice. We've seen these same battles play out over the medicinal properties of plants like turmeric and neem, things that have been staples in traditional Indian medicine for literally millennia. It's a clash that puts modern commerce directly up against ancient wisdom. So in the end, we're left with this incredible world-changing power. Biotechnology can help us solve some of our biggest problems. There's no doubt about that. But it also forces us to ask some of the toughest questions. It's not just about what we can do with the code of life, but what we should do. And that's not a question for just scientists or corporations to answer alone. It's really a conversation for all of us.